What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to ToyShopFab, or welcome if you haven't been here already, I guess. Uh, anyways, today we are working on Frankenstein right there. Now, for those of you that don't know, Frankenstein is one of those in-between projects. I use it. It's an ongoing project, is what I'm saying. It helps me with my. Kind of helps me be creative, helps me learn, helps me practice, kind of puts me in neat and unique situations where I have to try to figure things out. And it helps me when I work on my Mustang. Definitely helped me out a lot when building that truck out there. I got some things I want to do to those, but waiting on parts, right? And I've got to go to work here real soon. So we're going to work on Frankenstein because I do have some parts already here. And we're just going to kind of add to the Frankenstein-ish thing of this thing. But anyways, the reason I call it Frankenstein, for those of you that don't know, this frame is 100% built from the floor up by me, no plans. Yes, there's been a learning curve. I've run into little situations, had to move some things around. This frame was not originally built to be like this. I added on to it when a friend of mine called and asked me if I wanted this Gixxer 600 engine right here. This frame was not originally built for that. But he called me, he asked me if I wanted it, and I wasn't going to say no. So, cut the frame, extended it, added another bar on bottom, and pretty much turned it into what it is right now. I've got a couple bars there. I've been up last night. We're going to get those installed today. This originally had a flip top, which I thought was going to be really cool, and then quickly realized, no. It looked funny, wasn't really going to function the way I wanted it to, and for safety reasons, let's just go ahead and weld those top bars in there. Don't want them moving around. So, but yes, back to the whole Frankenstein thing. 100% built from the ground up. This is my frame. I've just kind of rolled the dice and ran with it. Front suspension is Yamaha Banshee. It's kind of eBay-ish. It is eBay. The hubs or spindles are factory Yamaha spindles. The control arms are eBay 2+1 control arms. If you don't know what that means, they're 2 inches wider and they push the wheels 1 inch forward. If they were on a Banshee for this, it doesn't really matter. Shocks are $50 eBay shocks. Actually, I think these are a little bit more because they work really well for what they are. I've barely got any preload set in the spring, so when you're out driving, they actually perform pretty good so far, at least from what I've done. Here is my shifter. Now my shifter is an eBay style hydraulic e-brake or handbrake that I've cut, modified, added some springs there, and that is a eBay or aftermarket B&M shifter cable that runs all the way up over here to a homemade bracket connecting to what was left of the original linkage off this engine. So now we have a shifter. Underneath or behind the seat, everything's kind of cluttered in there. Kind of get you a little view of what I got there. That is a homemade turbo header that goes into an on-3 76mm turbo. Blows into an eBay water-to-air intercooler around into my homemade air box that goes directly into all of our throttle bodies. That's an MG aluminum radiator, universal fan. Rear suspension's neat. These are Carter Brothers control arms, but they're kind of flipped. This is a lower, this is an upper. I flipped them around because of the way I built the frame. Welded a plate. Volkswagen helper shocks and springs, or Baja style springs. 4-gallon fuel cell that I added a sump to the bottom and run to a eBay fuel pump filter up into a eBay regulator that supplies the fuel rail with fuel. Those are homemade spindles or hubs that need to be finished, welded out, and cleaned up. A little more strength added to them, but they are what support the Suburban style, or it actually is a Suburban IFS four-wheel drive axle into the bearing that I cut down to fit inside of the wheel. And then just added a spacer because these are Banshee style wheels. Also off of eBay. There's a lot that I have missed. I've done all my own wiring, everything. There is quite a bit I have missed. It's just a collaboration of different fuel lines, master cylinders, just a bunch of stuff that I've picked off of eBay, thinking it would work, because I am definitely not afraid of buying things and cutting them up just to kind of make them do what I want them to do. If it's close enough, let's just cut it up, make it work. But that's why I call this thing Frankenstein. It's a bunch of parts thrown together to get what you see sitting right here, right now. Here's a little treat for some of you that are just joining and don't want to go back. Let's go ahead. We're going to fire this thing up. Here, the fuel pump kick. Just got this guy zip tied here right now. I do eventually, I'm going to cut the harness. We're going to build a plate up here to mount this guy so I can see it. All these controls will eventually be cut and extended. Everything seems to work. This thing is really, really loud. I've got neighbors quite a ways away that have said they have heard this thing run, and I have driven it by their house and it just blows their mind. She is a runner. Actually runs really, really well so far. Right, but it is noisy. That's all right. What we're going to do today, I'm going to get you in the stand. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to set myself up. We're going to get these top bars welded into place to kind of complete the whole roll bar look of this buggy, cross cart, go-kart, Frankenstein thing. We're going to get those in, kind of just tack weld them into place, much like a lot of this frame. Get those set up. I do want to kind of finish, want to finish the floor pans too. I need to get our brake line secured because it's just kind of floating around down there, our hard line. Need to get that secured to the frame. I want to finish out the floor on this as well, and then get the fuel pump and all that stuff kind of protected in the back. Get all that stuff mocked up, but there's a few things I want to do. Hopefully I got enough time to do it all. I will if I quit jabbering, right, and just get to work. So that's what I'm going to do. Go ahead, get you guys set up in the stand here, drag out the welder, and we'll get these top bars mocked up into place, and well, see how I like the way everything's looking. So here we go. All right, so bars are tack welded into place. I also went ahead and just made it up, or used my little Hulk tubing notcher. Made a crossbar for on top to help tie those the two main bars together. And I'm going to tell you right now, I like the look. I like the way this thing's starting to look now. I'm definitely happy that I decided not to do my whole tilt top thing. This looks much better, more complete, a little sleeker, I should say. And so here's what we got. Get down in here, do a little side, do a little walk by, see how it ties in. get back here just to give you a better, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this now. Not too bad. Definitely says I gotta upgrade those guys. It was in my mind to put 25s on the back of this thing, and now that we have the bar kind of tack welded into place, it makes the whole buggy look larger. Those are looking a little small, so gonna have to order some 25s for this thing. But other than that, I like how this thing's going. I like the bars on there. Definitely starting to look pretty cool. Definitely gonna be safer in case I ever decide to go up on top. And there's our little bar there. Cleaned it up. Just used the little my little air angle grinder over there with a small flap disc there. Just kind of go around, clean everything up, clean the notches, make sure it fits nice and snug. That way it ties those two bars together. So we'll go ahead and add a couple more tacks on that thing just to double check, make sure it's exactly what I want. Don't want it moving when I go ahead and finish welding the whole thing, but like I said, I'm gonna do it like most of the finish welding at a later date, probably about the time I start tearing this thing completely down, so I can clean the frame up, get the frame paint and all that stuff. Work in progress, right? It's be a lot of fun when it's done. But I'm gonna go ahead and throw a couple more tacks in there, strengthen that up, make sure none of that moves, get it on the rack, and then we'll start working on the bottom of this thing. So, right back. Bars are tack welded into place. Buggy is on the rack. And here's what I want to do underneath. So we got our hard stainless steel line. You can see here it's kind of flopping around. I do have one of these guys in place right now. And what I want to do is add another one here, here, back there somewhere. Now the kit I ordered is one of those, it's like a universal stainless hot rod brake line kit. I bought it off eBay. It comes with 4 sticks, 4-foot stainless, a bunch of fittings. Let's see here, I got bag. There it is, right here. All right, comes with a bunch of fittings, all kinds of little anchors, banjo bolts. It comes with a lot of neat stuff. I bought it because I figured I got enough vehicles around here. I could use it on other things, Mustang, truck, all that stuff. So I just went ahead and bought a full kit. And that kit comes with these little guys here. And there's nothing wrong with these. They snap on over the brake lines just fine. Let's see here. All right, and they pretty much the same purpose as these guys. They do the same thing, clamp around the line. You secure it to the rail or whatever it is you're securing it to. I just like these better because it's got rubber on there. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with these. But let's face it, this thing's gonna go, I plan to beat it up off-road. It's gonna hit some rocks, vibrations and stuff like that. So if I can get something in there to help absorb any vibrations whatsoever, I'm going to. That's what I'm saying. And so this, I like these. Picked them up at my local hardware store, Atwood's, I believe. You can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's. Basically any hardware store carries these guys. So that is what I'm going to do with the brake line. We're going to get secure up in here. And you can see what I was talking about earlier. There's 2 rails here now. Because I said this thing was not intended to have that big old engine in it. And when I said yes, I just basically, I cut the back off here all the way straight up, extended it out, added this second bar instead of just rebuilding a whole new frame. The gearing's correct so far, or correct-ish, because this thing does move around pretty good under its own power. So, but now you can see there. And there's some definitely re-engineering going on when I got that engine. But everything's coming together pretty good. We're going to tie that brake line in. Also, you guys may know, I am a huge fan of water-to-air intercoolers. I love them. You can pack ice in ice box and stuff like that. This one's not going to have an ice box. It's actually only got believe that's like a CR250. It's an eBay replacement radiator for those things. I don't exactly remember. I'll try to look back. I'll try to add most or links to most of the parts I use in this thing. I'll do my best to do that, so that way you guys can kind of go through there, see what you want. But basically type in CR250 or CR or whatever. It's as long as it's water cooled. Another thing is, this thing is Frankenstein, so the ports weren't all exactly in the correct spot of that radiator. I actually cut the front one off. It's got a plug in it now. I'll be drilling and welding the port on the opposite side that way I get my water lines to line up. But what's feeding it is this guy right here, and I don't know exactly what that's from, but it is an auxiliary water pump. It's got a Toyota part number on the other side. This is just a piece of 1.5 by 1.5 angle, cut it down, and welded the factory Toyota bracket to the top of this, and now we're going to drill and tap it to mount it to the frame. That way we've got our pump is good and secure. Water comes in here from our radiator up there. See here, so I'll cut this down. This will feed into the front of our pump here. This will come out, feed the bottom of our water to air up there, and then out the top into the top of our radiator. Now, hopefully this little engine doesn't see any more than like 2-3 pounds. If you've ever had a pan off one of these little 600s, you'll understand why. The rods look like number 2 pencils. It's crazy. And if to think about how high they spin and how much horsepower they already make bone stock. So a couple pounds is really all I want to see. And then that would, and it probably won't be till late in the RPM range. Hopefully get past its peak torque that way, because we want to try to save on them a little bit. So, but this engine does turn that little turbo, and whatever air is coming out of that, I want it to be cool. So water to air intercooler it is. Probably won't need it, ever. But it's there. Like I said, this has been a cool little project. I fit it in between those things out there. It just helps me be creative. So, yeah, enough talking. I'm gonna go ahead and grab our drill. I got a 7/32 bit in here. We'll go ahead and mark out our little spots, drill those out, 1/4-20 tap. Go ahead and finish putting in all our little mounts there to keep our brake line up, and then we'll come back, drill the holes in that guy, get him tapped, get that mounted, and then we're gonna move on to, hopefully, I'll start back there. We'll start working on getting some more of this floor pan installed as well. But let's get to finish mounting our brake lines. Good afternoon. It is the next day. Fireworks stands opened up and priorities. Had to get that done. So now that we got all of that taken care of, I'm back out here in the shop. We're back working on my cross car here. So far the brake line is mounted and secure. Went ahead and drill tapped the frame, mounted the water pump for our intercooler. That is secure as well. And you saw there on the video, I cut out the rear section of our skid plate for this cross cart. Now I'm using old street signs, and you can get those at like scrap yards or the neighbor, wherever one comes first. It is kind of thin, so it's really, really easy to cut with a skill saw. As you guys saw, I got that battery-powered DeWalt with a wood blade on there. Cuts through aluminum, especially these street signs, really fast. Really easy too. You can use a jigsaw if you want, but if you use like one of those, the fine tooth blades is what I'm saying. If you use one of those, make sure to spray the aluminum or at least the blade with WD-40. It'll help keep the aluminum from sticking to the blade, make that blade last longer, make your cuts easier. It's just easier all the way around your tool, so make sure to do that. If you got one of those wood saws or skill saws there, plug-in battery style, it cuts through really, really fast. So, but anyways, we got that piece cut out. I've already gone ahead, drilled and tapped just these front corners here, just to kind of hold them in place. And you can see there, we're kind of flush mounted. I am using these are stainless, 1/4-20 tapered, like machine screws. And that is to keep it flush with our skid plates. I got a bunch up there I need to change out. I didn't have those yet. Ordered them, had them sitting over here. If you guys notice, my parts pile that's over here in the shop is getting much smaller. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller as we're going on. It's because I'm now finally using all my stuff. Trying to get everything done. Most of it was for that truck though, but had some stuff sitting over there for this thing. So we're going to be using the 1/4-20 machine screws, flush mounted. Let's face it, this is an off-road buggy. It's going to be skidded across rocks, logs, drug across things. So it's one less thing to get caught up and drug off underneath this thing. And so I'll get you in the stand here. Matter of fact, let's do that right now. I got the two mounted, just kind of hold it in place. I got my tranny jack up there, holding it for me as well. Let's see here. And what I plan on doing is we're going to do this right here real quick. Just going to mark it off with my little center punch. All right, you can see this stuff is thin, so I will have to use like a shim. If I used a 1/8 inch or a 3/16 thick aluminum, I wouldn't have to use a washer in here. These guys are really cool. Probably seen me use it a couple times already on this video. It's just a spring-loaded center punch. You can get it at Harbor Freight or even on eBay. Just type in spring-loaded center punch or spring-loaded punch. Give it a couple good punches. Help center up your bit. We're going to drill through these two right here. I can see it. There we go. There is one. Oops. Get that stuff out of there. Get this guy, drill this hole out, get them both. All right. Got the two back holes drilled. Now, I'll go ahead and lower this down a little bit. Matter of fact, I'm going to take one of the Allens out of the front side there so we can swing it out of the way. Go ahead and get that front one real fast. All right, drill bit size is 7/32, I believe is what I've been using. It's a little tight, but take your time. The 1/4-20 tap goes right through it, no problem. Now this little thing's cool because it's got a spot you can put a bar in it. You can put a socket over if you want. As you saw in the end there, goes on your ratchet. I picked this up on the tap and die section at Lowe's, believe it or not, actually. Pick up a lot of stuff like this at Lowe's. Probably find it on eBay cheaper. I just happened to be in there when I saw it, picked it up, bought it right then and there, and it makes life very, very simple, much easier than using a T-handle. And then once you got, once it's threaded, then it's like a good handle too. You can just thread it on out. Oh yeah. Got that guy done. Now we're going to use it's around here somewhere. Okay. Oh, right in front of me. There's a snake. It bit me. So, but this is a 1/4 inch. Go ahead and just drill through that guy there on our skid plate. Get our little taper bit there. You guys can see that. Also picked that up from Lowe's. All this stuff in the drill bit section. That's going to give us a nice little countersunk for our Allen bolts. Allen screws. So, just use the little taper guy there and just grab it. You're going to have to do it a couple times just to make sure you get at least deep enough. See, let's come here even closer. Boom. So a little bit more. Right. A lot of this is actually starting to remind me of like the bottom of our old remote control cars. The way all the little screws are on the bottom of that. Pretty much how I got the idea for this. Figured it'd work really, really well. Like I said too, it might take a couple times. There we go. Don't be afraid to go if you go a little bit too far. Doesn't really matter. Whew. All these aluminum shavings, they're hot. All right. Got that guy set up. Now, because this is the thinner, Alright, now because this is the thinner aluminum, like the way these old shines are made of, if you go to put this Allen screw in there, let's see, we're going to do it right now, just so you can see. Right. I am snug now in our frame rail. It will rattle because it's a little thin, so I have to use a washer. Like a 5/16, so this is 1/4 5/16 washer. What it does is it allows the taper to kind of go in there a little bit, and it helps pinch our shield here. So that guy goes right there, right there. Now one day, when I get all rich and stuff, and I stop being cheap, I'll pick up some aluminum, some 3/16 stick aluminum or whatever. But for right now, this is perfect for what we're doing. It helps me, basically because I have to be creative to get our screws to sit down flush with our shield. And then I have to kind of think of different ways or different things I can do to help compensate for the fact that this is thinner, which is the creative part. And that's why I like working on these things so much. This has been a great side project or an in-between project, in between the truck, car, all kinds of other stuff. And it's allowed me to just continue learning, right? IFS front suspension with these Suburban axles. Probably never gonna break. I might break everything around these axles, but for this buggy, they are pretty stout. Making homemade our knuckles here. Coming up using cardboard or CAD, whatever you want to say. People who say cardboard aided design to make those. And then you're looking at angles, trying to get it's stuff like this, right? It doesn't have to be on a car or a truck or anything like that. Grab yourself a buggy, grab a little engine, a go-kart off a marketplace, and just use it as something on the side. Plus, these things, like this thing here is much cheaper to work on. If I break it, I can just, there's a lot of cheap parts on it, is what I'm saying. So, and every little thing we do, like this skid plate here, is now it's an accomplishment. We are done. We're done figuring out what to do. We've got another part checked off our list here. The cool thing is, because now we have something we can we can use all of what we learned putting this on, or any stuff like that, is for skid plate on like those push bumpers. Make little skid plates for those, countersink screws, stuff like that. What you might have to do, catch cans under your car, right? You can get some of these old signs from the scrapyard there. Make yourself a catch can or catch pan for the bottom of your race car or your car. Pick up some of those absorbents. So now you got something, if you develop a small little leak, you got something you can strap an absorbent to, help catch some of that stuff. And just make it easier on the track guys too. So, I mean, every little thing is just, it puts ideas in your head. So, but now our little skid plate is secured at all four corners. You can see we got those guys up in place. They are flush, not gonna get drug off, go sliding over any stumps or rocks or anything like that. And it should keep, we might have to clean out the little Allens with a pick or something like that, but Allen screws, we can get that off if we need to access anything. And look down in there, you can see our fuel pump, our sprocket, fuel lines. Everything is now protected. We're not going to be dragging it off with every stick we come to. So, but like I said, we've got four corners in this secure. I'm going to go ahead, put the camera down for a second. I'm going to add two more on each side just to kind of help keep it up and secure. Pull this guy out of the way, drop this. And I got one more thing I want to do with this before I kind of end this video. So, like I said, I'm going to get the rest of those in there. Drop this, put this thing back on the ground, so I'll be right back. Nope. Light again. It is still in the air. I did get the bolts on each side. Actually got two more on each side, so there's a total of 10 countersunk stainless ¼ Allens holding our back skid guard up. It is nice and secure. It is not going anywhere. And I figured, since after I put the camera down and I drilled and I put the screws in that panel, I figured, you know what, I'm already here. Let's not kid myself. Who knows when the next time I'll put this thing back in the air and actually finish that. So I talked myself in to continue with the floor pans. So I spent the whole rest of that day and a good portion of today measuring, cutting, drilling, just so I could get that done. It is an uncomfortable spot. A lot of you know, if you've ever drilled out metal above your head or standing under it, all those little shavings, right? Especially if you don't wear long sleeve shirts, gets right up in the little edges of your arms. I know, I'm crying, but it burns. It's hot, okay? And I talked myself into finishing the floor pans. So here is what I've got going on. Here's the back that we installed yesterday. Went ahead, measured and cut. Got these sides bent up and installed as well. Went to the Atwoods this morning. Got some 1.5 inch strap. I wanted 2.5. They did not have it, so I brought this back. Kind of try to figure out how I could make this all work. As you can see here, I did not have a full or big enough piece to cover the entire bottom of our buggy here, but I did have enough to cut it off in sections. So if I have to and I damage anything, then I can replace it in sections, which is definitely cheaper. I would have loved to have had one piece on here, to be honest with you. It would have been great, but I didn't have another big piece. So this has to be in sections. And if anybody asks me outside of this was on purpose. But anyways, all our sections are bent, as you saw there. I've got all kinds of measurements. I got lines scribed into it. I got a bunch of countersunk Allens all the way down. Everything is bent. And in between areas like this, like these Allens, I have to order longer ones of these. So Phillips are just there to remind me to order new hardware. But here is where we have little straps, like this guy here. So this goes against our bar, then the panel gets bolted to this. That way everything is good and secure all the way around. Once I get this other panel on, we're gonna have straps that go kind of like saddle this, I'm gonna call it the spine, floor spine, but it'll hold all of these together, keeping everything nice and tight. And then I don't have to worry about it later in life. If I can find a steel metal shop or get to a metal shop, I would like 2.5 inch wide. Maybe I can change it out because none of that is welded. It runs down the length of the floor from here all the way up to right here. So it's all bolted in. I can change it out and still keep most of the bolt locations. You know, it's metal, it's aluminum. If I have to, I can weld it up. Now I've got one more piece of our floor to install, and I got it out here because it's a big piece. I needed it bent, so I just grabbed a bar here, clamped it to the side, made sure to line up all our lines across here, took my cutoff wheel and just ran it down here a couple times, just enough to kind of score the metal, and then grabbed a hold of it, bent it over, because I don't own a metal brake. That is the easiest way I found to do it, especially big pieces of aluminum like that. So I wanted to show you guys all of this because I've spent a lot of time on it, and I keep talking about this buggy as an in-between project. It helps with the creativity side, helps you kind of figure out and conquer these little problems I might run into, like not having a big enough sheet, or now the place where I went and got my metal didn't have what I needed. So let's see how I can make things work. And that's what this has taught me when it comes to working on that Mustang and that truck out there. It's definitely going to help me on future projects, especially the one I got coming up. That one's going to be fun. So, but anyways, I got to get that piece bolted back up into the buggy, make sure this is all buttoned up, and then I'll bring this down, which will probably be in the morning again, because I got other things that need to be done. But I'm going to get the floor in now, get that bolted up. When I come back, this thing will be on the ground, and we'll be finishing up this last little thing I want to do before ending this video. So I'll get the floor in. We'll be right back. Floor's in, finally, and it is on the ground. Check this out. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. There's our little straps right there. And you can just see how much better everything looks now that it has a floor. Also, now that it has the bars going up over the top. My plan, I know I said yesterday, or when I had this thing up in the air, that I was gonna make little straps like this, but now that I can see it better from the top, I don't think I'll do it like this. What I'll do is I'll just cut that, brown that a little bit, make that more, these edges a little softer, TIG weld these two together, and then it just has a tab coming off, because this looks kind of, up here it looks kind of hokey. So I'm gonna go ahead and just weld that little corner to there. Do the same on that. And then this one here, we'll put the straps on here, but I'm gonna go underneath because it sits on top here, just out far enough where I can drill and tap into it. And then I'll take a cutoff wheel or a little flap disc and run over the top of them, kind of smooth it out maybe. We'll see how I feel when I get to that point. And then once all the whole floor and everything's done, once I finally finalize all that stuff, what I want to do is probably from this rail down out here and all that, and the top of the floor, all our little straps. I think what I want to do is once I get everything welded up and all that stuff finished, I'm going to coat it in some Duplicolor rattle can bed liner, just a real light coat. And if you don't know what that looks like, it's actually what I have on the Mustang. It's a little dirty, but you're going to get the idea. So you can see it's really, really fine. It's actually kind of light, and I can touch, gonna need to touch up a little bit there, get you in the light. Maybe over here where there's not so much light, but it's really light. And it looks really good, especially once it's all cleaned up. It's a little dusty. Poor car's just been nothing but pulled in and out for the last few months. So, but I think the floor, that bottom rail and the floor and all that stuff will look really, really good in that Duplicolor bed liner, that rattle can bed liner. All the panels that are going to go on this thing are going to be like semi-gloss black. And most of the frame will be painted this color red. So we're going to have the red outline. At least that's what's in my head for right now. If you guys haven't noticed, I kind of like the black and red. So that's what that is. Floor is it, but anyways, floor is in. It's secure enough for right now. Now the final thing I want to do is, you know, we installed the little water pump down there on the frame, got that bolted up. I've got my water to air intercooler up top, but I need to finish all of the plumbing. And what I have, you guys remember at the beginning there, I showed you it's like a CR250. It's an eBay dirt bike radiator. Then I cut this guy off the front, as you can see there, and just kind of put a plug in it. I didn't want to do any more welding on the front. And in case I change my mind, I can always just put a fitting there, or if I use this for something else or whatever. But what I want to do is come over here and actually install this guy about right there. That way I can grab my hose from that guy there, run them into there, and then our plumbing will pretty much be done with this intercooler. And what I'll do is when we fill up the guy through here, it's going to run down into our pump it up into the bottom of our little intercooler there, pushing all the air and everything out the top, putting it right back in here, and then hopefully circulating without any issues. I think that'll be probably the easiest, because even if I don't get it completely full, the pump's still going to be wanting to push everything through, and whatever air it may get is just going to be probably at the top of here. So it's just a water to air intercooler, just for fun. But I need to get the little radiator off, mark it, put a hole in it so we can weld this up. Also, I've got a piece of 1-inch strap here that I just drilled, took a measurement between those guys there, marked them in our strap, bent it at a 90, drilled out a couple more holes. That guy is gonna sit right up in here. If I can, a little tricky one-handed, I guess, but it's gonna sit there. What I'm going to do is just mark out where I need to drill and tap for those holes there. And then our little heat exchanger is mounted, and it's mounted with rubber isolators on both sides. Bet you can't guess where I got those. Yes, eBay. So they're just 1/4 rubber isolators is all I typed in. Bought them a long time ago. Like I said, they've been sitting over there in the corner with all the rest of the parts of this. So, but anyways, we're gonna get that off. I'm gonna drag out my welder, drill probably use a step bit, drill a little hole in there so I can get this kind of seated in it, We'll weld this up, get that thing mounted back on the cross cart, and then, well, see if we put some water in it, test it out, see how well it works, see if it flows through and all that stuff. So, get you guys in the stand. We'll get that thing back off, get everything welded up. Radiator is all welded up, mounted where it goes. You can see there too, I drilled the holes out of the bottom, went ahead and tapped it, put on our rubber isolators there. So now everything is mounted nice and snug. Ain't going nowhere. All our hoses are ran just like I wanted. So we go from our radiator here, or our heat exchanger, down into our pump, out of our pump, into the bottom of our intercooler, out the top of our intercooler, back into the top of our little heat exchanger there. Now I don't have any of the wiring hooked up for any of this yet, so I do have my power probe over there. I'm just going to go ahead and make contact with the wires, ground it, put power to the power side, see if it circulates. I have not. I have tested to make sure the little motor turned over, make sure that worked, and it does. That is the only thing I have done. As a matter of fact, probably get in there and see there is no green. And I say green because I'm going to be putting coolant in this thing. I was just going to test it with water, but if it doesn't leak, let's face it, it's going to stay in there for a while. This has been an ongoing in-between project going on 3 years now. Maybe 4. Google, most likely Google's going to let me know, right? This time last year, this time 2 years ago, so it always does that thing in the background. So Google will let me know, but from what I understand, I think it's about 3 years now we've been working on this. And well, when I put coolant in the engine, so I obviously knew I wasn't taking it out anytime soon. So I'm gonna go ahead and just carry that on over. I got a jug of coolant right here. I'm gonna put you in the stand up over the top of our tank here, our little heat exchanger. I'm going to add some coolant, probably about 1/3 of a gallon or so. I'm not sure. This might just hold a couple quarts, but we're going to add it. Once I start seeing a little bit of fluid or get about 1/2 gallon in there, I'm going to go over and turn the pump on, and you guys are going to watch, see if this thing pumps. Hope it does. It should. Pump turned. This is going to be really neat though. See, I'm not any good at this part either, so, ooh, hey now. Making a mess. Do that really well. All right. It's just like a 50-50 mix. Here, pushing air out that top port there. All right, I see fluid. Now hopefully you guys should be able to tell. See if I can zoom in just a little. Oh yeah. Get in there just a little bit. Hopefully you can see if whether or not it is circulating. I'm gonna be able to hear it. All right. Powered up. Sounds like it's circulating. I don't see any pumps or pumps leaks. I don't see any leaks. Pump sounds really good. Ooh, I hear it gurgling. Let's see if I can kind of poke my head over a little bit here. Maybe I can see it. I'll just have to trust your guys'. Have to trust you guys. Let's see here. Oh yeah, she is flowing good out that top section there. Let's see. Got a little bit of air. No big deal, but it's pumping. It's working like I wanted it to. So that's awesome. Let's add a little bit more coolant there. Looks like it holds about a little over a quart, which is fine. Doesn't need to hold all that much. I got plenty of coolant now if I ever spring a leak somewhere. Oh yeah. Now it's really flowing. Pushing some of the air out of there. All right, let's add just a tad bit more. Try it again. This is awesome. Should definitely, oh, let's see. The fill neck here is about level with the top of our intercooler. So, yeah, right there. So, you can see here our filler neck here is just below the top of this thing here. So whatever air is in here, I think it's going to pull it down, it's going to flow, which is fine. As long as it's got constant flow, we are good to go. This is awesome. This makes me happy. So, I guess all I have to do now is just put the cap back on. And, oh, cross my fingers there are no leaks. No, there shouldn't be. I did drip a little bit when pouring it in there, but hands are a little shaky. It's a little warm. But anyways, so now we got our roll bars installed, which is cool. Floor pans are installed, water pump installed, and our intercooler system, our water to air intercooler system is all hooked up. Of course, still got to run the wiring. I still got to run panels. I got to cut and shorten and extend and the harness and all that stuff. My plan is to use most of the motorcycle harness to run the lights and everything. Just throw some relays in there, a couple extra fuse panels, but other than that, I'm going to try to just use the whole harness. It's there, why not? But anyways, that is now where we're at with the Frankenstein. Definitely moving along. Everything inside our compartment here, or where I've got everything going, is all starting to get a little less clustered because now I'm actually starting to put things where it goes. Starting to come along very nicely. Once I get everything mounted and set up the way I want, I'll go ahead and just start tackling the wiring, get all that stuff ran, get that going where it needs to be. But that is going to do it for this video. Like I said, I got one more thing I want to try to knock out before going to work. And it's going to be a long, it's not going to be a long video, but it's going to be a long hitch. I was on vacation to do power tour, and now I've got to pay for it. I've got to make up for it. So when I get back, the guy's covered me. He's going on vacation. So I'll be working extra, which is fine because it's going to help continue on with all this stuff. But anyways, you guys, that's going to do it for this video. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment down there. Share this with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate all your guys' support. It's awesome. It really is. Thank you guys. I appreciate it all. And don't forget, like I said, I got a few more things I want to do with that truck before I redo the turbo kit and give that away. So if this is the first you're hearing about it, make sure you subscribe. Don't want to miss that. And go back and watch that video so you know. But anyways, you guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Get out there and work on your projects. I'll catch you on the next one.